Welcome back to the Dork Mother. To all the boys I loved before, to P.S. I Still Love You came out today. I watched it, knocked it out real fast, and I'm here to do my review. Okay, so opening up, she's doing a nice little 80s montage, kind of sing-along, lip-sync, whatever. Super cute, loved it. Of course, her sister's got to interrupt it. Her sister likes to cause drama in her life no matter what. You know, the only two sisters left at home of the Coveys have to, battle to keep it interesting. And then she has to get ready straight away for her date with PK, Peter Kavinsky, and she says that it's her first official date, and it's super cute. It's very, like I said, talking about earlier, the 80s-ness. It's very rom-com cliche, but it works, and you know, you gotta love PK, little Peter Kavinsky. After their dinner, they go and she actually gets to drive, which if you remember from the first one, she's not real big on driving. But they go and they do lanterns in the park, and she writes her initials on it. And then they instantly, she goes to talking about, well, hope they never break up, or sends up a wish with the lantern or whatever. And it's like, you know, foreshadowing, like talking about, oh, let's not break each other's hearts or whatever. Like I said, foreshadowing. They retconned from the mid-credit scene of the first movie so they could recast John Ambrose McLaren for this one. So she got the letter back in the mail, or not the letter, a letter from him back in the mail, you know, him saying, I'm glad I got your letter, all that. And the instant she got it, you know, she was like, then he ends up showing up at volunteering, which, you know, ends up happening a little bit later. But kind of say that the volunteering at that old folks home, like, I expected like sad, depressing old folks, and this thing looks like lifestyles of the rich and famous. So I mean, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. The fact that Peter did not want to volunteer with her there, maybe if he knew it was like that, he would have been like, I'm in. Is it just me, or did it seem like Laura Jean was not very questioning of Peter, and she was just with it until she got that letter from John Ambrose, and then all these, you know, doubts and stuff going through her head, and like, it just seemed like a lot of unfortunate coincidences, like him having late practice and coming late to the date at the coffee shop. I mean, he, in my mind, made up for it at the carnival because that was super adorbs, but you know, just so many unfortunate situations that led to her being like, is he right for me though? It's Peter freaking Kavinsky, Laura Jean. Go with it. So speaking of the carnival, ended up winning the snow globe, which seemed like some foreshadowing for later at the end of the movie, which at the time you didn't know it was foreshadowing, but when it popped out, I'm like, oh, okay, I got you. That was what that meant, even though that was with Peter, but now it's with John Ambrose. But we get a call back to the first movie with her and her hallucinations of the boys in her bedroom, but this time, instead of Josh, it's John Ambrose. And she, you know, is thinking about the different things that he said, and when she, you know, ran into him at volunteering, and then you got Peter saying, well, of the letters you sent, you know, who did you care about the most at the time you sent it? Now, if you remember from the first one, or if you read the book, she wrote those letters at all different points in time. So how would she know, you know, in comparison to how she felt about one boy versus another boy when she wrote the letter was all at different times? Like, I can understand if she wrote all the letters at one time, then she was like, you know, but no, that's not how it went down. So how can you distinguish, oh, I felt more for this boy when I wrote this than what other... I mean, at the time you're in a crush with somebody, or you think you're in love with somebody, you know, to all the boys I've loved before, you think it's the most important crush / love that you're ever going to have. So how can you distinguish if one is more important than another? The whole Valentine's Day debacle, throughout the day, you know, everybody kept saying that how he used to do for Jen. I don't want to talk about Jen, but I had to bring this up. And, you know, for Peter Kavinsky, I would hope that he would do something different. He did the dinner the same with Jen that he used to do with Jen, now he does with Laura Jean. So I would hope that he would do something differently for Valentine's Day. And he does. You know, and you're like, oh, he messes up because he doesn't give her the serenade, and then he gets her that badass necklace, and you're like, oh, this is super adorbs. And then you find out later from Stormy that he plagiarized the poem, and you're like, ooh, but the thought that counts. Side note from him, from Laura Jean finding out from Stormy that it's plagiarized. Stormy's a badass. old lady or not, she's killing it, talking about, you have, a lot of my love affairs overlapped one to the other, and just the snazzy comments. She actually kind of has, like, the mentality of, like, a man, like a player, and it's always good to see a female have that kind of sense of empowerment, like, I do what I want, I don't care. Okay, so when she's at the party and she's talking to Lucas and they're sharing their ice cream sandwich, and she starts going off about how, awkward she is around, Peter Kavinsky, and she doesn't know what to say, but, talking to John Ambrose, it's so easygoing and everything's, fine and dandy. And honestly, her little meltdown was like, before John Ambrose sent her that letter, her and Peter were so solid. Like, the whole first movie, it was all good. I mean, there was awkwardness with the whole hot tub thing and whatever. But for the most part, they were good. And then the whole John Ambrose letter comes out, and then she's instantly doubt. And it honestly, like, I'm all Peter Kavinsky, Laura Jean all day. But it almost makes me want to unship them a little bit. Like, I wasn't feeling her right there. No. I can kind of see her point, though, because on paper, her and John Ambrose make way more sense. I mean, Peter, she's much more like the intellectual type. And not saying that Peter's not smart, but he's much more the physical type, sports, doing physical activity, where John Ambrose is more the intellectual type with her. So, like, and, like, volunteering at the old folks' home. Like, I get that she thinks on paper that they're better together, but sorry, John Ambrose, you're not Peter Kavinsky. And speaking of the whole John Ambrose versus Peter Kavinsky situation, I will say this: I was super disappointed in Laura Jean for not being all the way honest with both boys, because, like, in John Ambrose's case, I mean, she seemed flirty. I mean, she pretty much led him on. And, I mean, yeah, he didn't out and out ask her if she had a boyfriend, but she didn't volunteer that information either. And then for, Peter going into this whole treehouse time capsule thing, he thought, oh yeah, whatever, it's super casual, and then figures out that she never told John Ambrose they were a couple either, so that's a betrayal of him. Like, is he, just some to bide her time until John Ambrose came along, and the awkwardness, cringe of that whole thing. And I'm not gonna lie, Peter Kavinsky pissed me off, and he went full D-bag almost with that whole, oh, you have a stutter thing. He picked it back up and he was like, oh, but I just see you don't have it no more. And John Ambrose was like, oh, yeah, my speech therapist would be happy to know she did a good job. Like, the just cringe, like, oh, no. Just, I wasn't feeling Peter right there. I'll tell you that. Noah Centineo's cute little face or not, that was not a good look. Also not a good look for Peter Kavinsky is him and Jen's post-breakup closeness, where, Chris takes the picture while he's supposed to be going to his lacrosse game, and he's off consoling Jen. Now, I'm sorry, like, I understand, the whole, he understands what she, needs or whatever because his parents have been divorced or whatever. I'm sorry, but I completely agree with Laura Jean on this one. I'd be like, oh, the person that you dated forever, that was I'm assuming they had their first time together. You never know about those two. But that kind of history, and they're just going to be down with you comforting them in their time of need and crying on the show. Nobody's down with that. Nobody. And I'm sorry if that makes me ununderstanding or cold or whatever, but nah. And I just throw out that they get their star ball or whatever it is that John Ambrose and her set up at the old folks home. Kind of say those old folks dancing, adorbs, totes adorbs. And when Stormy gave Laura Jean her little makeover, she was just like, she was killing it. She looked amazing. Okay, red lipstick on her works. It just, like, she went from, like, innocent schoolgirl who wears, like, plaid shorts and tights and, like, some, all of a sudden she's like a vixen with her big hair and her red lips. And, like, it almost, like, when she comes down the stairs and he's waiting at the bottom, it always reminded me of She's All That, where Rachel Lee Cook comes down and says that, kiss me. I don't know about the lyrics. That was a long time ago, but I understand that the author set it up this way. Then obviously the movie's doing it is that John Ambrose is supposed to be the rival for Peter Kavinsky for Laura Jean's attention. And I understand that in real life everybody's different shapes and sizes or whatever. But for me, like, when they stand next to each other, like, well, for example, Laura Jean is like, looks like a mini you know, like a tiny, tiny person next to Peter Kavinsky. And then when she danced with John Ambrose, and it was like they were almost the same size, and yeah, she's wearing heels, but still, he's not that much bigger than her. And it's hard for me to see him as a romantic rival when, like, Peter could eat him. Like, they should have picked somebody that was much more formidable. Like, for example, Trevor, Peter's other friend, who was hooking up with Chris. Now, if those two were competing, it would be much more believable. You know, whatever. Like, I just don't see it. Not saying that. And John Ambrose is adorable, but he's not a hunk. He's like, he's cute, but he's so small. And they kiss, okay, outside. And like I said, the snow globe at the carnival coming back, like, oh, there's a foreshadowing. There was snow. And I thought it was going to be her and Peter. Ended up being her and John. And they kiss or whatever. And obviously she figures out she'd rather be with Peter. Okay. I mean, I generally, you know, before you kiss another man if you want to be with the dude that you think you're in love with, but whatever. I will say this, my husband was pissed. He doesn't generally get emotionally invested in rom-coms, but we watched the first one together, and then I told him I was going to watch this today to do a video about it, and he's like, yeah, I'll watch it with you. And he was like, oh no, when they start, and then many times throughout when she was lying to both boys, or if she looked like she was going to hit it up with John Ambrose, he's like, I'm so disappointed in her. So he was emotionally invested. So yeah, she decides she wants Peter, goes to run out, and oh, there he is. And it was like they were in the same mind, and obviously shows that they're a lot more compatible with each other than one would think. But it was just super cute, and saying that, you know, break my heart, do whatever you gotta do. And it was a really good romantic speech. You know, I'm all about romantic speeches and romantic gestures. You know, rom-coms are my jam, if you've watched any of my other videos. I mean, one of my favorite movie scenes of all time is Lloyd Dobler holding the boombox above his head and Say Anything, aka John Cusack, playing Peter Gabriel's Your Eyes. So don't get me started on romantic gestures, but him showing up to the old folks' home and telling her, you know, break my heart, do whatever you gotta do, and saying that since it was snowing, he goes, I know you don't like to drive in the snow. So if she would have said, you know, I don't want to get back together, but he was, you know, caring enough that he wanted to make sure she didn't have to drive home in the snow. That's Peter Kavinsky for you. I will say this, she's just been kissing John Ambrose, and now she's kissing Peter, and she didn't tell him, and I know she didn't want to ruin the moment, but that's kind of a dick move. Like, your lips were just on somebody else, and maybe if he knew that, he wouldn't be so amped to be all make it out in the entryway of the old folks' home. Just saying. So, the ending, you know, super cute. They go to the tree house, and, you know, they walk out, and she's talking, and giving her narration or whatever, and they have their little kissy moment. They start raising up in the air as they're kissing, and I'm like, is this like a Grease moment? Like, that was my first reaction, was like, you know, Sandy and Danny going up in the car at the end, like, you know, is it supposed to imply that this is their fairy tale? She says, this is our story, and it's just the beginning. But is this implying that, you know, she thinks of it like a fairy tale, and that's why she feels it floating into the sky? My final verdict, I will say, like, I didn't get the feeling after watching it like I did the first one. I watched the first movie. I read the first book. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to knock out the second book before I watch the second movie. And I just couldn't get into it. I don't know. I will say this, is that Book Peter is a dick. Like, he is never understanding ever about Laura Jean's feelings, and when she voices stuff to him, and like, I don't identify with him at all. Like I said, it's a good thing I watched the first movie before I read the first book, or I honestly probably wouldn't be like, oh, Peter Kavinsky. Because Noah Centineo and the scriptwriters, and kind of reforming him and kind of changing up his personality a little bit and making him a lot more identifiable, a lot more empathetic, is something I can definitely get behind. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I liked it, and I'll definitely watch the third one because they already filmed it, and it just gotta wait to get released. Like, I'll definitely watch it, but like I said, it just didn't kick it for me like the first one did. So this has been my review theory synopsis of To All the Boys I Loved Before, P.S. I Still Love You. So To All the Boys I Loved Before 2. But thanks for watching, and thanks for visiting the Dork Mother. Like and subscribe.